You've probably had a question that you have thought about throughout your entire life, whether it be like, what, where am I going in life? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? That is a philosophical question, regardless if you're just wanting to know what kind of job you're going to do or whatever. It's still a philosophical question.
I'd say life is a choose your own adventure book. And what philosophy does is it does that thing where you say, you can go to page 20 if this happens, or go to page 80 if this happens. And on page 80, it just says you die. When you're playing those games and you just skip that bit and you don't go to page 80, you decide to go to page 20 after all. That's what philosophy can do for you.
One key trait about philosophy is that there's like unresolved arguments all the time that never can come to a consensus agreement. It's always disagreements constantly, but that's actually part of a trick that's actually really good.
A little bit of philosophy makes you Deepak Chopra. Studying philosophy makes you an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But the question here, Dave, is, what do you mean by a little?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hi.
All right.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the first live over on the Debate Hub channel. We are currently live on both channels, so if you would like, if you're on the chess channel, please join us over on the Debate Hub channel, as that is where this will be taking place. Thank you so much for joining us, though. Regardless, I'm excited. Happy to be back. We do this show. This is the philosophy show. We do the show once a month on the first Saturday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern, so join us whenever you can. Our last show has also already been uploaded, so that's all good and ready for you when you want to see it. I hope you guys enjoyed the intro. I'm Chesh, that's Oppie, that's Barry, that's Dave, and Frustrated Atheist is missing in action. I don't know where he is. I'm sure he'll be on his way as soon as he is. But we'll see if he comes in and is doing anything embarrassing, not realizing that we're live right away. Today, we are talking about identity and, who are you and how do you identify yourself? So, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Because I think that would be appropriate.
Do we start with
Pick someone to start.
Yeah.
Very in sync.
Philosophy stops you being verbose.
Apparently. All right, Dave, you go first, then Barry, then Opie.
I'm Dave. I have a couple of degrees in philosophy, and I talk a lot of bollocks when it comes to philosophy.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought someone else was going to
Hi, I'm Barry. I am a guy. I am interested in philosophy. Thank you.
And then I'm Opie, and I'm going back to school and trying to get into philosophy of science. There we go.
And
I will
apparently
be-
Opie was born at the wrong time.
Nope, we're not live. We're not doing that live, guys.
So today we're going to be talking about the philosophy of self, and I think we need to agree on a couple of points, right? Because if we're going to talk about
Here
self,
we
we
go.
kind of have to agree that we all exist, right? You have to, agree that a self is a thing, right?
Yeah,
You
we don't-
are...
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, you are an individual, so we don't play solipsism. No solipsism here. Never go full solipsism. So, for anybody who doesn't know what solipsism is, because that is kind of technical jargon, solipsism is, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Or how do you know everything isn't an illusion? We're skipping that.
Well, solipsism
sort of.
is the belief that you're the only real thing in the world and everything else is a confection.
Yeah.
Brain in a vat.
And I think if I was the only real thing in the world and I was making up everything else, I think I would have more convincing characters and more compelling storylines. That's my argument against solipsism.
I always like the
if
argument
I
of I'm
was
more
the only-
creative. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't be having Trump as running for the president, so
There you go.
I can't be the only mind.
So, I think we stick with, you are an individual, other individuals
Thank you.
exist, you're having an experience, you are thinking, and you exist within space and time. I think we all can agree to those axioms.
Mhm.
So, before we move
the thing
on...
is, if we don't, there's nothing to discuss.
Davis, correct, 100%. If we don't agree to these
So
axioms,
we might as well pretend, even if we don't agree, just pretend that they're true.
yeah. Dave's having a rave.
Yeah, I don't know what I need to get a new camera for some reason.
Does somebody want to give us the definition of axioms, though?
Axiom is something you accept for no reason because you know it's true.
Because you
a
know it's true.
dogmatic
Because-
starting
Yeah,
point.
but you can't explain it. It's
like
true.
like a properly basic belief, basically, like a foundation.
Yeah, like basically it's your operating assumptions, right?
Mhm.
There's stuff you
Yeah.
can't prove, but if you don't accept it as an operating assumption, you are fuckhead, and you might as well just not bother discussing anything. Like solipsism could be true, we don't know. It could be true, but the what's the point in discussing? Fine, solipsism, fuck off to your own island, you prick, right? We're trying to have a discussion. So even if it
Basically,
is
yeah.
true, there's nothing to discuss. So
Yep.
an axiom is something you just kind of accept as true because who's the god? Because we're not. It's our operating assumptions, in other words, and it's always a good idea to know what they are, even if you have no control over them.
Yeah.
Some people don't know what their operating assumptions are. It's news to them, and they're like, "Well, you've been assuming the whole time that X, Y, Z," and they're like, "Oh, okay." A whole new world.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like take a pragmatic approach to certain things where like if it's like something that we'll never be able to answer, like a brain in a vat, like it appears to me that my senses like allow me to like pick up a glass of water and I feel those sensations, and insofar as that I'm navigating this brain in a vat world, it still appears to not be. So it's just better.
It's one of those things where like you have to make the assumption, otherwise you're going nowhere like really fast.
Yeah.
Like Barry was saying, there's not really any point in discussing it because, oh well, so what? Conversation over, I guess. So if we agree that we're all individuals, we agree that we're experiencing something and we're experiencing other individuals who are also experiencing things, we can all think, which is questionable, but we'll take it for now, and that we all exist within space and time. We are not having arguments about what is space and what is time. That's a different conversation. We're trying to get out of ivory towers and, like, weird nonsense. We're gonna try to make this practical. So, what do you guys think makes up an identity?
Qualities that
history,
distinguish
our
it.
likes. Yeah.
Oh, like something that distinguishes us from other people or things.
Yeah.
Qualities.
I think it might be a lot looser than anyone watching this might like to admit. The concept of what you are as a person might be incredibly loose to the point where it may almost be meaningless. Almost. Because what you're saying, I've been thinking about this for years, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes I don't even think of myself as a person, just kind of a collection of ideas held together in a meat sack. You know what I mean? Like what does it mean to say I'm this and I'm that? Like, who the fuck am I? I don't know. Neither do you. This feels like you know, but the fact that something feels a certain way doesn't make it real. Sorry, Opie, I ran over you.
Daniel Dennett one time in a lecture tried to express something more of like trying to conceive ourselves as a we, not an I. And it's because we're a collection of different neurons firing off, and different parts of our brain are firing off different ideas. And the ones that we're aware of consciously are is what's taking importance, but there's other ones going on in our brain too. So it's very interesting.
Well, what brought it home to me was I thought about people that I know and friends of mine and acquaintances that were not quite friends and so on, and how I think of those people. And the further away you are, the fewer the number of adjectives I have to describe you. So let's say I think you're a fun person and you're interested in airplanes, right? I can guarantee you, Timmy whatever over the other side of town is more than a fun guy who likes airplanes. And then I thought, well, how do other people think of me? And then I thought, well, I saw another argument from Julian Jaynes, who wrote a wonderful book called the Dawn of Consciousness, or whatever he called it, The Birth of Consciousness in 1976. And his argument was that consciousness only ever exists as a function of it's basically a modeling system for how to act in a social situation, because you need to model other person's behavior, other person's impression of you. So you need to have an impression of their impression of you, and that's what consciousness is. And everything else is just layered.
So are you suggesting that identity is only partially about how you distinguish yourself from others, meaning identity does not exist if there isn't someone else to compare to? Or
yeah,
something
I think it's
else?
socially constructed. I think it's socially constructed. I think you wouldn't be worried about what kind of a person you are if there's only one of you. It wouldn't make any sense to say what kind of a person am I if there was one of you. I believe. I don't know if it's true because there's never been only one of us.
There are also versions of you out there that aren't actually based on you, but are like constructed around other people knowing you.
Oh, right.
There's
So,
versions
like,
of me in here that aren't based on me.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, just
Like,
because
what's
well,
the name-
somebody like
What's the Leaves of Grass? Who wrote Leaves of Grass?
Sorry,
The American poet. He wrote Leaves of Grass. What's the guy?
I'm
Name?
not
His
sure.
name is
I can
He wrote
tell
this
you.
poem called Leaves of Grass. He wrote a book called Leaves of Grass, and one of the poems in it, one of the lines is, "Do I contradict myself? Very well. Then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes."
Walt
Like,
Whitman.
yeah, fuck yeah, Walt Whitman. Yeah, fuck yeah, Walt Whitman. That's the one. I am large. I contain multitudes. They're trying to say, "Who are you, Walt?" "Oh, I'm a poet." Really, really. I'm
That's
gonna
your
just
job.
fucking boil your ass down to that. Everybody is thousands of networked things, and they're all different. And trying to tell Timmy across the door, what tell me about Timmy? Sure, he's fun and he likes airplanes. It's almost doing an act of violence to this guy, almost,
Yeah,
because we're all
it's-
so complicated interior. Like, oh, that he's a mechanic. He likes fixing cars. Okay, well, that's all I need to know about Michael. You know, it doesn't make any sense
yeah, it's a little bit odd,
because
and
you have
I
an
think
interior awareness that's so. Go on.
I think this is a thing that happens
Sorry.
a lot in some societies seem to do it more than others, and this particularly seems like a strong thing that America does, which is they identify themselves based on their job. What job are you doing? That's who you are. And I don't think that's very healthy for people, personally.
Not for unemployed people, no.
Or well, I identify as unemployed.
Hmm.
Like, what does that even
Yeah.
mean? What does that tell you about who you are as a person? Next to nothing.
Well, part of the Julian Jaynes argument is that we were basically all schizophrenic before 1200 BC.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying he's correct. I'm saying it's an interesting argument, okay?
Mhm.
And the argument is that by schizophrenic, he means we would have heard voices in our heads and believed them to be other entities. Instead of, like, if I hear voices in my head now, like in the shower, I'm talking to myself in my head sometimes, I know it's coming from me. But they would have, hey, how you doing, bud?
He made it.
We would have, now I know it's coming from me, but before 1200 BC, he produced this raft of evidence in this remarkable book to suggest that people did not figure that out until very, very recently. And it's when different groups of people came into competition kind of with each other for resources around 1200 BC, the whole Mediterranean area kind of exploded. And that was part of that, he thinks. But have a look at it if you want. It's called The Dawn of Consciousness and the Birth of the Bicameral Mind by Julian Jaynes. Again, I don't know if it's correct or not, but it's incredibly interesting as a book. I suspect he's a hippie, but so is Alan Watts, and a lot of stuff he says is very interesting as well.
Are you identifying him as a hippie?
Yeah.
Hippies.
Yeah, I would say Julian Jaynes is a hippie.
Frustrated, welcome. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm frustrated. There you go.
Yippee! Thank you for joining
One
us.
adjective to describe him. You're so much more than that. Why do you run yourself down like that? There's an interior awareness you have, a network of things, and you've reduced yourself to frustrated. And
He's not just frustrated, he's also an atheist.
Okay.
I am also an atheist. So I boiled myself down to two things. Thank you.
How deep
Okay,
are both
well,
of
I
those
froze
things?
there and I missed all
Because-
that, but I'm going to go with you with two
I'd
adjectives.
like to
Yeah.
add something to Barry's. So like we've been talking about how identity in terms of like how we think of other people and you know when they're not in the same room, but like what happens if like when they're gone, like does something about us persist after we're dead? You know, some form of an identity that can be tarnished or elevated, you know, after we're gone. And it's very interesting
Well,
that
I
like
have a
it
conception
doesn't
of
just
people.
stop after. Say that
I have
again.
a conception of people that are close to me, right?
Mhm.
And that kind of lives in my head until I meet them again and I update it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would say the simple answer to your question, Opie, is yes. People will have a construction of me in their mind after I'm dead, which will have as much. I'm serious. Will have as much validity as anything I do when I'm alive. The only problem is they won't be able to update that construction because I'll be dead. But it won't
Look
be
at you,
measurably
Mr.
different to how
Shaw,
they
of
think
knowing
now, right?
people.
There's also
that's
something
my
to be
fault. I
said
brought
for
that on
like
myself.
based on being remembered based on who you are versus being remembered based on what you've done. Right? So some people
who am I?
have done things that have lasting effect. And now I would argue that everybody's done something that has a lasting effect, whether you wanted to do something or not, because you engage with other people. Period. End of sentence. So because you engage with other people, it causes a trickle-down effect. but there are some people that are more obvious than others who have a bigger impact on society at large, and like very publicly so, and people are aware of, as opposed to some people who maybe live maybe more quiet to themselves lives, that just because they affect like 1 or 2 or 5 people around them, those 5 people then take that with them, and then those people take that with them, and then those people take that with them. It's part of being a society. We live in a society.
Well, you can also engage with almost nobody and have remarkable effects worldwide, like Emily Dickinson.
Well, and sometimes it's just
And
like
others.
something accidental, right? You do something by accident, and that accident can mean a lot to a lot of people. Amelia Earhart comes to mind.
Yeah. Although I run with the theory that everything is accidental, so
I don't do anything.
so far my
having no impact
do
on
anything.
anybody's life.
And yet here
that's
you
not
are
true. You're here
on
now.
a stream.
speaking to people.
Here you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah,
Look,
dude.
look, I need
And
to
both of the people
walk
watching
around
this will
my-
be very affected by things that you say.
Oh man,
You're like
both
the
of
first
them are
person
gonna-
in the intro.
Both of them are going to be like, "Oh yeah, there's that guy,"
Yeah.
and then that's it.
That guy, what's his name? I don't know.
Oh,
There's
Yeah, frustrated and Angela too.
So what tools do you think are useful for identifying who you are as a person? Because I feel like what you believe and how you behave are pretty strong indicators about how people are going to see you and how you're going to see yourself. Although it might be twisted one way or another.
I would say do your best to detach yourself from everything. Detach yourself from like actions and so on. And the way I see things is everything is just stuff that happens, right? That's it. And if you could just kind of think more like that, it'll be less, I guess, ego-driven and not worry about it so much. And it's fine. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
I had this conversation with Dave when we talked about free will over on Answers and Reason. And I said,
Yeah.
when you realize that you control nothing, you control everything, because you're going to do whatever you're going to do regardless of whether you think you want to or not.
Yeah. I wrote a short story once about a guy, and he was in this group of people who believed strongly in karma. And another guy came in, and he tried to explain karma to the new guy, and the new guy just punched him in the face, and he said, well, I guess you had that coming. Maybe. I don't know. How would we know?
So to be or not to be, right? Who are you and who do you want to be? I think are pretty big questions, but I feel like you can't really answer one without knowing the other.
And they might not be coherent, as they might be coherent questions. Like when I say, like,
Yeah.
who is anyone? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Who even are Nazis? Are they German though? I literally heard somebody say that recently, and I died.
Oh yeah, I
well,
saw that too. They were like, yeah, it's the same thing. Maybe we saw the same thing. Yeah, I said, yeah, they were German. Yeah.
That was my immediate response was, I don't know, was Hitler German?
No, he was Austrian, but okay.
He was Austrian, yeah.
Yeah. So does it like?
He,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, continue with that question.
So if we're going to rely on identity, relying on separating yourself from other people, that means you need to be able to identify other people, right? It's a weird circular thing where you have to be able to recognize other people and accurately assess who they are, and you can only really use what they tell you and their behavior to identify those things. And sometimes people will say something different than the way they behave.
Yes, that's what Julian Jaynes said. The entire purpose of consciousness is a modeling system for how others are modeling you. It's a socially constructed thing, the whole thing of an interior awareness. Like, we think we use this interior awareness to make decisions, and so all the decisions are made in the background somewhere. We hardly even know what's going on. We just think we're making decisions. What it's for is a modeling system for social activity. Is the Julian Jaynes hypothesis. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying it's interesting. We'll never know.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
an
amount of
interesting
brain
thing to
surgery
figure out.
and chemistry you can crack down that will tell you the answers to these things. You can only think your way around it.
Well, and that's part of the exercise of the show, right? Is to make these things accessible so people can start assessing these questions for themselves and making these decisions, or at least you're a little bit more conscious of what's going on around you, or are able to sort of like like Barry was saying, remove yourself a little bit from it and get a wider scope of what it is you're actually doing. Because people will say, oh, you shouldn't judge others. And I'm like, no. No, I'm judging you. Because I need to identify you. So once I identify you, I can then make assessments about how to interact with you.
I judge
You
all
could
you
model
people.
I'm judging Opie, I can tell you that for no charge. And we all know
Of
why.
course.
Well, frustrated atheists we know why.
I don't know why.
Twitter.
I'll tell you later, man.
Okay,
Just,
tell me
he
later.
fucking reamed me on Twitter, completely unnecessary. Straight out of the gate.
Oh,
Fucking destroyed me.
Just-
Ruin this man's entire
Gone
career.
for a month. Yeah, gone for
Yeah,
1
he
month.
basically
Came
cheshed
in
me.
and ruined Barry's day in one tweet.
In one
Yeah,
tweet.
there you go. Yeah.
There you
Fuck
go.
me.
No,
So
Having such a bad day. Yeah.
what is it that makes up behavior and belief then? Because I would probably start looking at virtues, values, and principles in that case.
And habits.
Habits.
What do you mean?
Habits
Virtue
is a
is
really-
different. Okay, go on.
All right, continue. Oh, well, Pierce talks about habits a lot. It's like part of it's that big behavior thing where it's like you can be an atheist all you want or say you're an atheist, but if you actually don't have that disbelief in God, then you're just like a lacktheist at that point. But most of the lacktheists are actually actual atheists. They just won't like say it, but their behaviors and their habits show otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they.
Yeah, you can say
they
your
tend
actions
to-
determine your beliefs, but like, sorry, frustrated. Continue.
No. Go ahead, Barry.
Like, you can say people's actions determine, you can get their beliefs from their actions, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes people have an interior sort of intention thing going on that doesn't seem to match their actions, but they still need to have it as a sort of a North Star, something to aim for while they're failing, you know?
Fair enough.
Did Percy
Yeah,
say
people
about
can
that?
makes sense.
manipulate.
Oh, if
Yeah,
you have,
that's
like, a
another thing
certain
about
goal,
philosophy.
like-
Opie.
Oh yeah, if you have like a certain goal, like right now, I'm not a philosopher of science, but I strive to be. So,
Yeah.
correct.
A philosopher is someone who strives to be a philosopher, Opie. You're in. Well done.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that's basically all philosophers.
Everyone here is a philosopher right now. Everyone,
including
I don't
Shesh.
think so.
all five
How
of us,
dare you?
including Jess.
Including Chesh. What the hell kind of... What was with you and the fucking bombs dropping on for completely unnecessary? Everyone here is a philosopher, including Chesh. Do you want to have a crack at her age
Yeah.
while you're at it?
Tresh said that they're not a philosopher, so I'm
Including
forcing
But
that
she-
identity on them.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
we're definitely forcing it on her.
Yeah.
That's
Without her
who you are,
consent,
Chesh.
one goblin.
Good look for... Look, she's in the middle
Goblin
there. And she's a little bit
philosophy.
smaller than everybody else. This is disgusting.
I'm goblin philosophy. One goblin,
Yeah.
4 men. Where will this go? So
Whoa! Look, now you went dirty, but no, I don't like this. In the stream right here, right now, we're done.
no, all right. So
My cat just left the room.
how,
Because of you, Chesh. Chesh,
Oh no!
that cat heard what you said and said,
Yeah.
"Nope, I'm out."
It's Barry's fault for not
opposite.
wearing the right kind of headphones.
I'm not wearing any headphones.
Well, there we go. Oh, the cat only heard me because he didn't wear headphones.
Like,
All right, so you mentioned ego. Can we get like a brief description on what ego actually is? We get that from
this
Dave.
for the Freudian definition or the popular definition?
The definition people will understand.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Dave. Sorry, no, Chesh. Who did you say?
Basically just-
Hmm?
Who want to answer that? Sorry, Chesh. You said before.
I
you
said
wanted someone
Dave.
to
He
answer
said
it.
you.
Oh, Dave, go.
Dave's
Most
like,
people
no.
just think of ego as no. I don't know anything about these things. Most people just think of ego in the sense of thinking a lot about yourself and what you think about yourself.
I said, if you say someone is an egotist, you mean that they prioritize their own interests above the interests of others
Yeah,
to an
And
inordinate
that's
degree. Because at
basically-
some point we have to.
yeah, but it's more than just the usual self kind of think. How you think about yourself.
Yep.
It's something that can be harmed that isn't physical harm, I guess, in some way too. It's just interesting.
It starts getting into metaphysics pretty fast, in my opinion. But before we
ethics with something like egoism.
So would ego would be tied in inherently to identity then, right?
Yeah, we have to think about ourselves in some ways. Yeah.
Does that like extrapolate into how like who you identify yourself as? Does that not like extrapolate into like how you think and how you make decisions?
Maybe.
So like,
do you do that? If you have a
decide...
decision to make, do you say I'm this kind of a person, therefore I make this decision, or do you just make the decision and
Is it the other way around, you mean? Like you make decisions and then you use those decisions to identify who you are?
Maybe. Or
Because,
maybe
like, if I
just,
hypothetically ask, oh, I'm going to hand you green nail polish or purple nail polish, which nail polish are you going to choose? You have to think of, well, the type of person I am, I would like this or that.
Maybe. Or I'll just pick the purple one and then, I'll just pick the purple one and then I'll, like, construct the reason afterwards.
You don't think about things before you do
you're
them?
You're a purple nail polish liker, that's what you are.
Sometimes I do.
See, your biggest mistake is you're assuming that I think. I just do.
Listen, we went over those axioms before. We have to assume that we're all thinking. Sorry.
Well, no. First Atheist is the perfect human. He's the perfect marriage of action and thought.
Exactly.
He's just he's a perfect human being.
There's no gaps. I just think that like if you're trying to like formulate and identify yourself and start trying to think about who the type of person is you want to be, you start having to consider these things. If I wouldn't do something,
the type of person. I don't believe in the type of person. I honestly don't believe in that.
Oh, sure.
I don't believe anybody's any type of person.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
It's why Migs Bayer fails.
Interesting.
Oh. It's also like
that's why when somebody says, "Oh, he's that type of person. He's a bad guy. He's a good guy. He's that type of person." Oh, what would you expect from that type of person? That's all bullshit, man. You got to flush that shit out of your head. It's a horrible way to think about humans.
So then, how do you, if you have a goal and you're like, "Hey, listen, I want to be a better person than I am,"
right?
How do you parse that? You say, "These are the decisions I'm making now, and I do not like that I'm making these decisions this way. How do I change that?"
Okay, that has been a thought process I had. I don't like what I'm doing now, and I want to be a better person. I try to do that every day, right? And I just try to come at everything with kindness and compassion and some sort of intelligence. But kindness and compassion come beforehand, and if something is stupid and kind, I will do it before I'll do something intelligent and unkind.
So that's a matter of
principle. No, it's not a matter of principle. It's
virtues.
Kind of a disposition as well. It's just basically who you
value,
are and how you
maybe. Barry's just like, stop.
Like I don't know if it's gonna work or not.
I think he's frozen.
He froze. Barry, you froze. Uh-oh.
I thought he was just glaring at us for being dumb.
Oh, I think he's back.
That's exactly what he's doing. He was looking at us like, how dumb could y'all possibly be?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. There's no way to tell if this is the correct approach, but I want to be a better person means nothing without your operating assumptions. And my operating assumptions are if I use more kindness and compassion in my decisions, then this will make me a better person. But it's not a fact. It's just how I want to do things. Because as I said, I don't believe in that type of person. I think it's a highly violent, toxic way to think about anybody, even in positive ways.
Mm-hmm.
Is a better Barry a type of person versus a Barry today?
No.
What is the difference between better Barry in the future than Barry now?
Hopefully I will be acting with more compassion and kindness toward people around me.
It's more of like that's the kind of identity we're going. He's trying to reel back towards is like the Barry in the future.
But then I don't think identity is a property. I think it's more like it's kind of a pointer, maybe, or maybe like we're all vessels for these various sometimes conflicting pointers. I don't know if that's that, but to call that an identity, that's not what people mean when they say the word identity, is it?
No.
they're exhibiting certain qualities that are separate you from other objects or people.
Yeah,
So
usually whenever
separate you into the various groups.
yeah,
Okay.
usually when I hear people talking about identity, it's in the sense that it's a characteristic that they have that not necessarily. I don't know. Like that's the way I've heard identity.
Yeah, and it's not.
apples
It
and
can't be.
oranges.
One of the things that I find
Dude,
interesting is
Wait,
how
I want to see Frustrated's mug. Can I just see your mug, Frustrated? Can you hold it up to the camera there? The mug you're drinking out of.
Oh yeah.
hold on.
Oh.
It's a very pretty pig. That's a very cool mug.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man. Sorry, carry on.
I think it's really
no.
interesting that things like identity are incredibly loose terms. Like you can talk about sexual identity, you can talk about like your identity as like your gender identity, you
Numbers.
can talk about your political identity, and all of these things are like very vague and open-ended terms that generally don't mean a whole lot most of the time.
Yeah.
The
Like if you're like the first one you said was sexual identity, that might not mean anything. We just say, well, look, I find myself attracted to other guys, or I find myself attracted to girls. That's all you can say about that, and you can't really say that's your sexual. I guess you could. I guess if it's under attack, I guess it suddenly kind of sharpens up probably. But if it's not under attack, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
The
Well, I
only
mean, wouldn't that
Like
still be?
if gays are being killed, then suddenly if you're being gay, then that's an identity, I guess. But if you're not under attack,
but that's only if you get caught, so it's about a behavior.
no, I mean as from point of view of identity, I mean.
Well, you're talking about, yeah, now we're talking about outgroups.
Yeah, or anybody who's getting attacked. Like I'm an Irish person, right? So does that make me Irish? That's my Irish identity. What does it mean? Nothing. But I can tell you,
you're living
when
on a
England was
geographical.
occupying us for 800 years, it fucking snapped into focus. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're a free republic, and Irish people can do whatever they want. So saying I'm Irish means very little. It just means I'm from this country.
It's
I wouldn't be able
almost
to narrow it
like
down anymore.
it's almost like identity is very heavily reliant on what society's views and behaviors are at the time.
Yeah, socially constructed.
That is, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it definitely is socially constructed, but at the same time, I don't think it necessarily relies on the groups at like the society as a whole's attitude towards those groups, because, like, I mean, let's face it, like here in the United States right now, one of the worst things you can do is come out as trans, especially in like, say, my home state of Texas. Like that's one of the worst things you can do, and yet we still have people doing it here in Texas. They're still coming out as trans here in Texas, even though they know that their life is going to suffer significantly more than it will when they were still not out. So I don't necessarily think that it has anything to do with how society as a whole views people. I think it's just how your specific in-group might feel towards it. Like
you can segregate pockets out of different groups.
Yeah.
So it's not like, depending on where and when you look is very, very relevant to how an identified group of people will be treated.
Like, I mean, like I said, like basically, like if this was 1930s Germany, identifying yourself as a Nazi would have been the best thing. Oh, yeah, I'm a Nazi. And everybody would have been like, oh, wow, that's amazing. He's one of the good guys, But nowadays in Germany, if you sit there and say, I'm a Nazi, the Germans will be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Oh, can I tell you guys a story about my dad?
Yeah, by all means.
I asked my dad, I said, Brian, what would you have done? Because he's old, man. He's 90 years old. I said, what would you have done in wartime Germany, And he said, I would have kept my fucking head down and survived. And I said, okay, fair enough. And he said, not like you, he said. So what do you mean not like me? And he said, oh, you would have been straight in the camps day one because you don't know how to shut the fuck up. And I said, what? And he said, oh, you would have been in the... He said they would have probably built a special camp just for you, he said.
Yeah, probably.
And this was the same day Opie tweeted that thing to me. That was a good day.
Man, you were bodied after bodied.
Had I known that, I would have
Did you
tweeted
roll a
more.
nat one?
I want to ask Opie. Opie, I want to ask Opie a
Getting
question.
bodied.
I don't know if I don't know if I heard him from this. Opie, do you think that identity is socially constructed?
So like I guess it's what I mean by identities. Like I'm reducing it down to like just qualities a particular person or object have that's separated from other things. So like like a red apple is like I'm identifying that differently than the green apple next to it and stuff like that. So there's certain qualities that are physically that I'm observing that are just not part of society, that are just there that I see. But if we're talking about like self or personal identity, then those are definitely socially constructed.
I guess it's a difference between like identity only has value if there are other things that you need to distinguish from, but that doesn't mean that those things don't exist regardless of whether the need is there or not.
Yeah.
So like an apple, let's say the green apple is a green apple, whether or not you distinguish it as such or not, but it only matters if it's green, if it's relevant to the context of when you're looking at this apple.
And different than any other apple that you see, yeah.
Is that why you'll have like
all...
the identity, like people would have been identified as being left-handed, and that used to matter way more than it does now. It's still. I didn't say it didn't matter at all.
Any of you guys get the black pinky ever? It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's definitely it matters. Like having to get left-handed scissors. Like there are still things around being left-handed that are more frustrating than others. But you're not getting burned at the stake for being a witch.
Thank God.
Right? You're not getting like your wrists slapped anymore and then being taught to use your right hand to write regardless, right?
I was kind of, as a child, I used to, because I'm a lefty, and somebody I knew was trying to force me for a while to write with my right hand, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Were you born in the 90s? Because that was still a thing going on in the 90s. It's probably not.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I was born in the 90s.
So yeah, no, it's a common thing here.
I get it. You're way younger than me. Jesus Christ.
Who, me?
Barry's just mad because he's worried he's going to be identified as old.
Go back onto TikTok, so if you like that so much.
You say that, but you're saying that like I'm not going to be posting clips of the show onto TikTok.
I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. I know. I get it. It's like Snapchat. It's like kind of Snapchat thing. I get that.
Don't worry about it. So,
Barry, you can't be that much older than me.
I'm 49.
What? I will say
49.
you age gracefully. I will say that you age gracefully because I thought you were. From the gray. Well, still, I saw even with your profile picture on Twitter where it looks like you have a lot more gray in there. I thought I still thought you were like maybe at the max 39.
Dave's only 32.
What you don't know is Dave's actually.
Dave, did you mute yourself? I can't hear you.
Yeah, he muted himself.
Dave muted.
No.
Oh, no. Can't hear you, bud.
We lost him. Oh, no.
The idea of Dave being 32 stopped his sound.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
We have to wait for Dave.
SpaghettiOs.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Another thing that I think is worthwhile to discuss around this, while Dave's getting that fixed, is getting identified based on like a visual trait. So whether that be like you are in a wheelchair, or whether that be that you have blonde hair. Nope.
Or like me, you're just fat.
Glasses.
Or how old you look, if you have facial hair, like the way you present yourself. And I think the way you present yourself and the way you're perceived has a very big impact on your behavior. Mm-hmm. So like if people treat you like you're a piece of shit all the time, you're going to, regardless of what you do, you're going to you'll just be like, I accept it. I'm just going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Do you have a headset, Dave, like with the microphone on it, and just use that instead?
Yeah, you can if you need to.
Sometimes that works for me. I just plug out the USB from the microphone and I put in just a whole new headset. If I can't get the mic to work properly.
He was fine. What happened? No.
Nope.
No, I still can't hear you, man.
Is there a button on your microphone? Are you muted inside of? Leave and come back in. See if that works.
That's pretty frustrating.
Dave over here, pretty soon he'll get on our level, our professional level here.
He's gone now anyway.
Yeah,
I have a
All right, he's gone.
$20
Oh, he's back.
Logitech.
We
This
did
is-
Can
get
you
a
hear-
super
this is
chat.
all I-
Oh, there it
Yes.
is.
Oh, we
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, there we
Touch your
go.
eye.
Not sure what happened then.
Fantastic, Dave.
We're back. What were you gonna say, Dave?
It's the tech ones.
I was going to say I'm 32 stone, maybe. Not 32 years old.
Totally
Okay,
worth
okay.
it. Well done, Dave. Totally worth it.
Exactly.
We got a super
You
chat.
got to
from
build up these things.
the comedic
That was really good.
timing. My unfinished
Right.
My unfinished journey for 666 said, Hail Nero, Chesh, and panel. Quote, living with philosophy whether you not like it or not. Like Trump will protect women whether they like it or not. Winky face.
I heard him say that, yeah.
Again, really quickly, by the way, we are live on the Debate Hub channel as well as my personal channel. Stuff is getting split. If you're following me on the Chess channel and you're watching us there, please jump on over to the Debate Hub channel because that is where these are going to be happening from now on. So if you would like to join us, drop us a follow, help this channel reach like something, that'd be great. I need your help. Greatly appreciated. So, identifying.
I want everybody to sub to the Debate Hub channel and get it past Chesh's subscriber count.
That'd be crazy.
Do that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, just
Or at
keep
least- or at
send
least
this one
another
into the
certain-
stratosphere.
Another certain channel that used to have debates on it. We should outdo that one.
Outdo that one. Give it time. Give it time. So if we're talking about like the way people identify you, because like people can actually like just gaslight you into believing something about yourself that is just inherently untrue.
Yep.
Look, I just go ahead and agree with everything that everyone says about me. They're like, yeah, you're this, and I'm like, you're absolutely right.
What do they say
And
about
they're
you?
like, you're not gonna. Well, I don't remember because there's so many different things that they've said, and I'm like, that's right. Yeah,
do they say you're a biker?
You're, you're a well-adjusted. Are
They
you
do.
a well-adjusted
They do.
theist then?
I am. Hmm.
You're a well-adjusted theist.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can't get away with
Yeah,
that because
I agree.
people accuse me of doing criminal things, and if I say yes, absolutely, I will get in trouble. Doesn't work for me. I have done that
Look,
before.
I just tell the cops. Shut up. Go away.
Yeah, welcome to Texas.
How many times do you find yourself talking to the cops?
Not very often at all. No, because I don't really tend to. I try to limit my going out
Yeah.
in front of people. Like I have to do it for work and all that, but and school. But other than that, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna stay at the house. That's it.
I thought he was going to say he tries to limit his criminal activities.
Yeah.
No,
When
we
I
don't.
talk to
limit
people-
criminal
why would we do that?
When I
Um,
talk to cops, it's mostly
Dave,
yes, sir,
I
no,
mean,
sir. How can I help you, sir?
It's mostly.
I mean,
do it.
I don't
Don't
do any
discuss it
criminal
live, huh?
activities. I don't do
So-
any of that stuff.
So you don't identify as a criminal?
No, absolutely
Not anymore.
not. Not when this is being
Mhm.
live streamed or whenever cops are present. Absolutely not.
What
I am
does
not
it
a criminal
do?
ever.
What does it do to your personal identity if you are identified for doing an action? So, like a criminal, you're identified as a thief if you've stolen something. Does that then, I think some people choose to, like, reject that, and other people choose to, like, imbibe that and be like, yeah, that's who I am.
Well, that was
It's
part of what I
something
was
with, like,
saying later on. I
charity
think
work,
if you steal something, I don't know. Opie.
Well, it's the same thing with like charity work or the opposite, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people like don't even like you could be Amber Heard and pledge charity, or you could actually like do it and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it depends on how much you like value kind actions like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's too much shade in here.
Look, I'm going to be like every other snot-nosed celebrity, and I'm just gonna be like, once I make it big, I'm gonna be like, fuck all you lessers. Ugh.
Dave, what do you think?
About being identified as something like a thief.
Yeah, you've done a behavior and now you are identified this way.
I think it's mostly a means for other people to sort out who they want as part of the group or who should be kept outside of whatever group it is. I mean, if you're identified as a thief and you live amongst like a mafia population, you're going to be very popular. In a sort of posh neighborhood, you're probably not going to be quite so popular.
What if you identify as a thief but you've never stolen anything?
Then you're a bit confused.
Like,
You don't know how words work.
What if you want to be a thief and you're trying really hard and haven't succeeded yet?
Then you're still a thiefish because you're attempting to perform the actions.
The reason I bring this up as like
me in philosophy.
Yeah, like, do you identify as a philosopher whether or not you're actually good at it? Do you identify as a singer even if you're not good at it? As an artist if they're not getting paid to do their work, right? Like, it doesn't... All these things are kind of like jobs, though.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get over this idea that the thief who can't actually do a crime. It's like he breaks into this place and it's like National Break Into This House Day. He goes and steals something. It's like National Take Everything Out of This Store Day.
He goes in and breaks in and there's nothing in the house. The people just moved.
Yeah. Like every time he goes to commit to go thieving, and all of a sudden he just can't thieve because it's like, hey, actually that's free for you today, and it's like
you're our 100th customer. What? Thanks for coming into the store. You get everything you grab for free.
Everything you get out of here.
That's basically the plot of Woody Allen's Take the Money and Run.
So I know that Barry brought up this to be, when we were talking about being a better person in the future. We're not having the discussion about what counts as better or worse, because I think that's subjective. Especially if you're talking about you wanting to be a better person, you're going to have to pick and choose what you believe better means in that context. But if we're describing things and like would it be attributes and habits? Because I know some people want to be better because they want to change a habit. Whereas other people want to be better because they don't like their thought process and they want to change and adapt that. But I think a thought process is a habit. Can you not change and practice thinking and doing something a specific way until it starts to come naturally to you?
That's the whole purpose of Aristotelian virtue ethics. It's
Go
the idea
on.
that we can practice. Well, it's the idea that there are certain actions that are better than others, and we should practice those actions until they become dispositional or habitual. So it's obvious that you can actually change and have better habits depending on what you want to call a better habit.
I think there's a lot of people out there who find it who want to change, find it very difficult to change, and don't believe people can change because they believe their identity is inherent into who they are. And I think that's a little bit of what Barry was getting at when Barry was describing... Sorry, who was it you said? The author? The argument that you said, I don't necessarily believe this, but it's interesting to think about.
Oh, Julian Jaynes. Jaynes.
Yeah. Is that about right, Barry?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's... I don't know, I wouldn't like to be judged by some stupid shit I did, you know what I mean? I wouldn't like to be judged as that thing by my worst fucking day. I wouldn't like people to judge my entire personality based on... I think that might be what happens when you call somebody a murderer. Like, I don't believe that there's such a thing as a murderer. There's a guy who killed people. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's called somebody. This guy is a murderer.
There's actually a joke about that where the guy sits there and says, you know, I've over the 50 years of my life, I built 100 chairs, but they don't call me Jeff the chair maker. I've sat there and I've have gone and saved 100 people, but they don't call me Jeff the savior. But you fuck one goat.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of like outliers, because I mean, you could also, there's a difference between, I think, the way like society identifies somebody to force them out of a group, or to make sure that they are identified in a specific way to point out that they are different from everybody else, for good or for ill, regardless. How would you change it? Like, what would you do differently to make it so that that's not the case, or that's not what happened?
I think it was part of like so like if for instance, like you let's say you get known for the the bad stuff, like you have one or two options at this point. You either do so much good for the rest of your life, people's perception of you changes to where they're like, okay, he is no longer the man he used to be, or woman she used to be. Or you have to not only change your habits, but you also have to change location, because if nobody's going to sit there and accept that you have changed as a person, no matter how much good things you've done. Like, let's say for the while you were known as a crackhead, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm going to get clean. You get clean. You go and you stay busy. You've gone and you donated your time and money to help other people and all this stuff. And you do all this stuff, and people are still like, oh yeah, there's crackhead Johnny. And it's like, if they're not going to accept that you've changed as a person, you need to move from that area you're in.
At some point, those distinguishing qualities are not going to be accurate anymore. So, like, crackhead Johnny was a crackhead when he was, but if he's not now, then me calling him crackhead Jerry is saying a lot more about me than
now you're the asshole. And now you're asshole Steve.
But
that's what
that's
did
the thing.
Yeah.
But that's one of the issues of, like, especially like whenever you live in a very small town, is that a lot of the times people get set in their ways, and they just all they know is him as crackhead Johnny. And what they tend to do is, even though they call him crackhead Johnny, they're like, yeah, he got off of crack like 30 years ago. And everyone who's new to the town's like, then why do you still call him crackhead Johnny? It's like, that's just his nickname that we gave him so long ago. And it's like, yeah, it speaks more about them, but it doesn't stop them from continuously doing it regardless.
Also, Dave said, Dave was talking about Aristotle there and the virtue stuff, and he said, the idea is that you want to form good habits so they become dispositional, right? But that kind of neglects the truth that this is what is happening to all of us all the time anyway. We're all developing habits that have become dispositional at all times. We all think of ourselves as the end of a process, and we're all in the middle of a process, right? So if you do philosophy and you do psychology, what you're doing is it gives you more control over the process, and at the very least, it lets you become aware of it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's understanding how the process is going about.
Yeah. Once knowledge is
philosophy will help you see the strings, right?
Yeah.
It will help you see the strings, but it doesn't make them go away. So it depends on whether or not you want to see the strings or not.
All y'all have to do is look towards me, because I am perfection. So, just look towards me, and this is what you should emulate to be.
Correct. Frustrated atheist is a perfect marriage of thought and action. Look at that. That's frustrated atheist there. Perfect.
If you also understand
just follow my blueprint.
If you also understand the strings and can see the strings, you start being able to manipulate them. For good or for ill. Yeah.
I'm not sure you can. You understand that you can't manipulate them. Yeah.
I think understanding that you can't, I think that just accepting that is already changing things, though.
No, it's like
which ones you can and can't.
It definitively changes your outlook on it, though, and your perception.
You can change your perception, but the thing is one of the issues is like it's like a American, a puppet who he can let's say we get a puppet sentient. Yeah, let's get this puppet sentient.
That's very dangerous. It's
and all of a
thinking.
sudden, what?
It's very dangerous to think that because you can see the strings, you can manipulate them. It's dangerous because that means now you're going to go into a supermarket and say, "Oh, that $3.99 thing doesn't affect me because I know they're just trying to say 4." And suddenly you think you're a better kind of person. It doesn't work like that at all.
Well, that's a lot of additional steps. That's a lot of additional steps.
But it doesn't. You're still going to be affected in the same way by the same stuff. And to imagine that you somehow are not is dangerous, because then you won't notice it happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
kind of like if you want to see a literary visualization of this, think of Deadpool. Deadpool is a comic book character who knows he's a comic book character, so everything he technically does within the universe doesn't matter ultimately. And so that's why he does a lot of the different stuff he does, where he's like, yeah, I'm just going to kill this guy, or hey, I'm going to do this random thing. And people are like, what the hell? Everyone inside the comic is like, what the hell is he doing? But he knows he's a comic book character.
But now we're talking about like a universal thing, not a personal identity thing. Which is what
this will explain the different worlds we live in, me and frustrated atheists, because I could have said exactly the same thing about Hamlet, using exactly the same words, except play instead of comic and Hamlet instead of Deadpool.
Mhm.
He knows he's
Yeah.
in a play, and that's how he does all that stupid shit. And all his friends around him say, "What kind of stupid shit are you doing?" And he just kills a guy because he just does. And he's like, "Well, I'm in a play. What are you going to do about it?"
Well, there's a jump
Yeah.
to understanding you're part of a play and then valuing the other people still in the play, right? That's another jump to
Oh, I'm
behavior.
sorry. Did you think I
right?
meant Country Matters?
No, I'm saying that just like understanding you're in a play or understanding that things are going to play out one way or another changes your behavior.
Hmm.
And so when you understand that and it changes your behavior, that's you making a decision based on this additional information to change the way you start interacting with other people. Yes, it's dangerous if you choose to start being like, nothing in life matters, full nihilism, pew pew pew. Or if you use that to then be like, I'm gonna bring other people out of the matrix and we can all have a good time. Or not.
I think well, Josh, there's more things in heaven and earth than I dreamt of in your philosophy.
My goblin philosophy.
Yes, your
How long
goblin
can I keep this
philosophy.
going?
I'm just
At the
saying
bit of
that
time, I would feign no when I'd said it was so and approved otherwise. That's what I'd like to know.
I think what we're getting down to here is knowledge changes a person, and it changes a person's behavior, sometimes in small ways and sometimes in big ways.
I mean, it might do, yeah.
Depends on the
It's
knowledge,
possible.
but yeah.
And if they actually get it,
Mike.
If they actually get it, yeah, like if they imbibe the information and accept the information.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe?
I mean, think of something like a younger
I could
Thracianist.
tell you, I could give you
Yeah,
100 hours
the
of
first thing
audio
comes to
of
mind is
Epstein
the
talking about
younger
Trump. It
creation.
won't affect
Yeah.
any of his vote. I can tell you that.
Sure.
Yeah. So they now know that, and it won't affect anybody's vote. They have that information and that knowledge, and it won't affect anything.
Sure. Yeah. There are some people that,
Sometimes it
regardless of what you tell them, will not change their mind about something, but that's still a decision.
Okay, but you said it changes something. It doesn't change anything.
I said behaviors.
It doesn't change their behavior, sure.
I disagree
Just
because if somebody says here, I'll give you the Trump example. The Trump example is perfect. Somebody who finds out they're already against this thing. Somebody finds out that Trump did that thing, and they're like, I'm gonna vote for Trump anyway. That is a change in the like they're circumventing their virtue, their value, or their principles for Trump. That's a change in behavior.
Or they're learning about what their virtues are.
Or that, which is also new information that will lead them one direction or another, which is a directive behavior.
It's a
Sure,
good
but
thing
it
to
changes
point
nothing.
out. Everything is changing at all times.
Right.
All the time.
And so
here we go, Heraclitus.
we're back to we're all in a process. None of us are a finished product, and so as you are obtaining information, although the change may be very, very slight to your behavior or very, very minimal, or it's a decision that you make to definitively not change and change this other aspect of yourself instead, you're still constantly in this metamorphosis where you are obtaining information and
Maybe.
Identities also change over time. An artist 100 years ago is very different than an artist now. A machinist 60 years ago is very different than a machinist now.
And then you have
philosopher.
experts that will actually try and do older things or older techniques.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Neat, isn't it? So how do you change something about yourself on purpose?
Oh, you're asking me? Like self-reflection, and go to therapy if you need to. I totally advocate for going to therapy if you need to for self-reflection and having another person to bounce off of. So
I think something Frustrated Atheist said that was really, really interesting is somebody who has changed their habits, has like somebody who was like a crackhead who is now doing their time or utilizing their time to change their habits, change who they are, stop doing that, start volunteering, and still being identified as whatever they are. But there are two very key parts there, and it was redemption and understanding what you were doing was something you don't want to be doing for whatever reason. So the actual change in behavior and identifying the behavior are two hugely massive problems for, I think, a lot of people.
And the availability of a path to redemption.
Yeah, the availability of the path as well. I think enabling people to change and enabling people on those paths is definitely something that online in particular social circles is really, really bad about.
Mhm.
I
I
completely
think
agree with
I think something else that we should always keep in mind too is that like whenever we have people who tend to falter in their change, because let's face it, like every so often we all tend to slip back into our old patterns because we are human. We That's what we do. That we need to not be so harsh on them. I like yes, make sure they know that this should not become their norm again. But we should also realize that we fuck up. Like we're humans. We're going to fuck up. I can't tell you how many
Yeah, the
times
path to
I've sat
redemption is
there
not a
and
straight line.
you.
exactly,
We fall off the wagon
exactly.
sometimes.
I also think it's a little bit, it's one of
Mhm.
those things where you're also asking people to take a risk depending on how
Mhm.
problematic, and like the risk is dependent on how problematic the behavior is and how like
Mhm.
dangerous it can be
Well,
to a person.
well,
Somebody who
let me
habitually
put it
lies versus somebody who's like a serial killer.
right. Well, let me put it this way. Like whenever I was in the army, like we our sense of humor
Mhm.
was it was all over the place, and it got dark. Like it got real dark with our sense of humor. And one of the things I've learned as I've gotten out of the military and gone into more leftist spheres is that a lot of those jokes that I could tell in the military are not socially acceptable out in the regular world. And so I've had to constantly watch what I say and what jokes I tell at first until it just became natural. And it still is every now and then I catch myself slipping. Like I will sit there and want to try to be like call someone the, um so that way y'all know retarded. But
Mhm.
I'm like, no, I shouldn't say that because then that helps keeps the negative stereotype of mentally challenged people, yada yada yada. And
Right.
so I had to keep myself from saying it, but every now and then I still say, that's fucking retarded, dude. And it's like it sucks, but it's not something I should go to, but it's something that a
It's a
habit
habit.
that I'm still constantly
Mhm.
breaking. And every now and then I go back, I slip back like another area where you can make a lot of different like I've made a lot of dark jokes at is like when you work out in plants or you working out at the docks and things like that, you can tell those same type of jokes. And I've caught
Mm.
myself doing those
Or a
jokes
machine shop.
again
Yeah.
whenever I'm
Yeah,
doing it.
it's a lot easier
Yeah,
following
or a machine
those.
shop.
It's the same thing with like if you're a drug addict, right? It's very hard to stay away from like and not do drugs if you're still hanging out in an
Mm-hmm.
area where drugs are readily available. So I think this is just at this point we got to start wrapping up. So just advice for breaking a habit. Breaking habits and changing habits are about two things: removing it as best as you can for your life in other spaces, and replacing it with a different habit that satisfies
Yeah.
the same need but is less destructive to whatever it is you're trying to do. So the easy example is like if you want to quit smoking, chew gum, get a lollipop because the lollipop gives you like the hand to mouth habit and it
It's
gives you something
mm,
in your mouth habit and it gives you like a little bit of like that gives you that sugar hit. So you can use those things to try to change yourself or better yourself by making sure you put something in place that's going to eat up that time or eat up that desire into your brain without the destructive nature of whatever you were doing. But we do need to wrap up. So I'll let Barry go first, then Opie can go, then Frustrated Atheist, then Dave, and then we'll get on out of here. So go ahead, Barry. What are your last thoughts on identity?
I don't believe in it.
Fake
That's it.
news. Barry says fake news. All right, go ahead.
I kind of reduce it down to like very like set theory. Like it's kind of ivory tower, but if you can get it down to there, it helps you branch it back out to more real life things. So
Frustrated?
I agree. I don't believe in Barry's identity either.
That's fair, yeah.
Dave?
I think identity is kind of important for sorting things out within the world and sorting out who we want to be, but don't get caught up in your own identity too much because like you said earlier, everything is in flux and everything is in change.
Yeah, I've been Chesh. I'm gonna think I agree with Dave, and I might go a little bit of a step further and say identity can be ostensibly whatever you want it to be. So if you want to identify yourself differently and you want people to understand who you are, you need to consistently present. But if you want to change that, do it. And be careful to not use sweeping generalizations when you are identifying someone or people, and understand that people are complicated and complex. Good luck with whatever you're trying to do there. Good luck in your self-improvement, and good luck. And we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Like and share and subscribe. Bye.
You've probably had a question that you have thought about throughout your entire life, whether it be like, where am I going in life? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? That is a philosophical question, regardless if you're just wanting to know what kind of job you're going to do or whatever. It's still a philosophical question.
I'd say life is a choose your own adventure book. And what philosophy does is it does that thing where you say, you know, you can go to page 20 if this happens, or go to page 80 if this happens. And on page 80, it just says you die. You know, you're playing those games and you just skip that bit and you don't go to page 80, you decide to go to page 20 after all. That's what philosophy can do for you.
One key trait about philosophy is that there's like unresolved arguments all the time that never can come to a consensus or agreement. It's always disagreements constantly, but that's actually part of a trait that's actually really good.
A little bit of philosophy makes you Deepak Chopra. Studying philosophy makes you an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But the question here, Dave, is, you know, what do you mean by a little?